The winning blueprint presents.
In the lab room.
Welcome. You are in the lab room. I'm your host, Luke. Thank you for joining me. It's Tuesday afternoon, which means there was Monday Night Football a day ago. The Carolina Panthers traveled to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles in what was a game of two disappointing teams from this 2012 season. Two teams that had high expectations coming into the season. Panthers, we're talking Super Bowl, if you can believe that. We're talking Super Bowl at the beginning of the year. Their center, Ryan Khalil, took out a full-page ad in the Carolina paper talking to the fans, telling them to support the team and that they would return the favor in the form of a Super Bowl championship trophy. And so they've fallen a long way from those aspirations, as they were 3-7 coming into this football game against the Philadelphia Eagles, who are another underachieving team in this season. And really, they're probably the most disappointing and most underachieving team in the National Football League this year. You could argue that the Chiefs are right there with them, but no one was talking Super Bowl for the Chiefs. A lot of people were picking this Philadelphia Eagles team to do some serious damage, not only in the NFC East, but in the NFC period. And ultimately, some people picked them to be their representative for the NFC in the Super Bowl. So this Philadelphia Eagles team is a mess, and a lot of people did not see this coming after the way they finished last year, winning 5 consecutive games to get to 8-8 on the season. They really looked like a team that was starting to mesh and gel, and they were starting to figure it out as they were brought together, a lot of these guys, by free agency. And so this just hammers home the point that you can't buy a championship. You know, the Redskins found that out the hard way. Years of overspending for players that were past their prime. You cannot go out and just throw money at players, throw them onto a roster and expect to win. It takes continuity. It takes togetherness. It takes unity. It takes guys being together for more than 2 or 3 years and knowing what the tendencies are of their teammates for them to go out and perform on the field as you would expect them to. So, you know, this Eagles team is teaching a lot of teams around the league a lesson. If you didn't already know this already, you can't buy a championship. There are plenty of things money can buy, but 2 things that we know money can't buy is love and a Super Bowl championship. And so the Eagles are finding that out the hard way. They host the Carolina Panthers yesterday, and this Eagles team, as much as I want to say that they probably won't win another game, it's hard to put them in a box because this is the Nicholas Foles-led Philadelphia Eagles. They stink. Now, you stick Michael Vick back in the lineup. You stick Shady McCoy back in the lineup. And look, make no mistake about it. Bryce Brown did not disappoint last night. He showed up. He got an opportunity. He showed up, and he showed out. The only problem was he couldn't hold on to the football. He fumbled twice. These were 2 big fumbles in this game. Helped the Eagles lose this football game. But running the football, he did an excellent job. 19 carries, up over 160 yards rushing. He got it done last night. And so there was no drop-off in the running back production last night in Bryce Brown stepping in for LaShawn McCoy. Where the drop-off was at the quarterback position. No Michael Vick. You plug in Nicholas Foles, and there's a steep drop-off between Nicholas Foles and Michael Vick. And so looking at Vick on the sideline last night, looks like he's okay. He's starting to come around. He'll probably play next week against the Dallas Cowboys. I'm assuming Shady McCoy will play next week as well against the Cowboys. I don't know, though. He was not on the sideline. So that makes me wonder if he, like Michael Vick a week ago, was too ill and really suffering from the effects of the concussion, so much so that he couldn't even show up on the sidelines and be in attendance with the team while playing this game. So that leads me to believe that he's really suffering some post-concussion syndrome, and he might not be able to go. That's what that tells me. I'm just reading between the lines, drawing a little inference, if you will. So don't know if he'll be able to go. But talking about this game against the Panthers, the Eagles had opportunities. Early on, they came out and it looked like they were going to get embarrassed. I honestly thought this was the night that the Eagles were going to quit. They were going to have the fans throwing things onto the field. They were going to get booed off the field. I thought they were going to lose this game by 30-plus points because they came out and within the first 6 minutes of the game had given up 2 easy walk-in touchdowns, and they looked like a team that didn't know what the hell they were supposed to do on defense. I thought this was going to be an easy blowout win for the Carolina Panthers. At least that's what it looked like from the outside looking in if you watched the first quarter. Hell, if you watched the first 7 minutes of this game, you thought, okay, the Eagles are not going to show up tonight. Then they got their act together. They started to play some defense. They started to make some things happen. Bryce Brown started to erupt on this Carolina Panthers run defense, and they got back into the game. If not for the turnovers of Bryce Brown, maybe the Eagles are able to come away with this win. There were several drives in this game where the Eagles had something going, and he put it on the carpet, and the Panthers were able to recover the football. And look, Nicholas Foles got away with a few interceptions himself. Sherrod Martin, on the first possession of the game, probably should have had 2 picks on 2 separate occasions. And so Foles probably should have ended up with 4 picks on the night. But he had none because the Carolina Panthers can't catch. So there are opportunities for both teams to make plays. Plays weren't made. And at the end of the day, the Panthers are the better team. And the Eagles right now, without Vic, without Shady McCoy, they weren't supposed to win this game. And they gave it a valiant effort after falling behind 14-3 early in this game, looking like they were going to be blown out of the stadium. They rose and they showed a little resolve. And now look, it's not much. There's no consolation prize for just showing up and playing. That's something you're supposed to do. You don't get a prize. This isn't Pee-wee football. Everyone doesn't get a juice box and a certificate for showing up. They did what they were supposed to do. They played hard. They came out and they tried to win the football game, but that's not enough. They're all adults. You go out there and you try to win the football game. They didn't win. And this Eagles team, they can't get out of their own way. And we already know Andy Reid is a lame duck coach walking. He will be fired soon as the season is wrapped up. However, I'm not so sure about Ron Rivera either. And this was a big game for him. They needed to come out and win this game. Cam Newton looked good in this game. He was hitting receivers. And it wasn't hard to look good in this game because the Eagles were leaving guys wide open. And so Cam Newton was finding Brandon LaFell, Greg Olsen, Steve Smith. He was finding guys, getting them the football, allowing them to run after the catch. They were making plays, especially early in the football game. As the game drew on and it got a little tighter, the Panthers turned to their running game, turned to Cam Newton in the run game, and they were able to hold off the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles had a late game surge, but it wasn't enough as Bryce Brown put the ball on the floor one too many times. Panthers were able to secure a victory, get the win, 30-22, giving them a 3-8 mark on the season. Meanwhile, the Eagles dropped to 3-8 on the season. After starting the season 3-1, the Eagles have now dropped 7 straight games, the longest such losing streak of the Andy Reid tenure. And this thing could get to 8, it could get to 9, it can get to 10 because they have the Cowboys next. I can't see them going to Dallas and winning that football game. Now, Vic will be back probably. I'm just speculating. Shady McCoy might be back. I'm not so sure about him. I feel real confident about Vic. I saw him, laughing and joking on the sideline. Those are good signs that he's probably going to be able to go next week. I'm not sure about Shady. He wasn't on the sideline. He wasn't in attendance. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to go, if he's going to be able to pass the concussion test, to have the ability to play. So they could lose 8 straight. This game wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I thought the Eagles were going to just flat out give up on Andy Reid. They didn't. It says a lot about the character of this team, even though you don't get a prize for just showing up and playing hard. You're supposed to do that. But I've seen teams tank it. They start losing, and to hell with it. I'm ready for my vacation. I'm still getting my check, so I don't care whether we win or lose. I'm not going to go out here and hurt myself and jeopardize my career. I'm just going to go out and show up, do what I need to do, and move on. You have guys that think that way, and so they still tried to win this game. They're just not a good football team, especially without Michael Vick and Shady McCoy. The Panthers get it done, and they needed this game because, again, I think this is a locker room that has a lot of loud personalities. And what I mean by that is guys who don't mind speaking up, speaking out, and you have a coach that's not a strong enough personality to contain all of these characters in a locker room. You get guys speaking out, and you get a locker room like the Panthers, like a Jets locker room, where things are said and you can't control it because you don't have a guy at the top, ruling with an iron fist that can stop guys from running their mouth and talking to the media and saying things that they probably shouldn't be saying. So this was a big win. Because everybody's smiling, and I already said the best deodorant in the National Football League, win. It's called Win. You put it on, it smells great. Everyone's happy, and there's no long faces. There's nothing bad to say. Everybody feels good when you win. That's the best smelling deodorant. It covers all the funk of losing. It covers all the stenches of guys being frustrated in the locker room. You win, all that stuff goes away. The Panthers were able to do that. Cam Newton was smiling after the game. He was giving out interviews left and right. He was talking to everybody under the sun. And so that's what happens when you win. Panthers were able to do so. They're now 3-8 on the season. Eagles weren't able to do so. They're now 3-8 on the season as well. So that's a touchdown. Throw it up. Want to tack on this quick extra point. Now, if you were able to check out the Dolphins and the Seahawks contest on Sunday, you would have seen that the sprinklers came on in that game. That was freaky. Have you ever seen anything like that before? I've never seen the sprinklers come on in the middle of the game. If I'm a player, I'm frustrated because now the field is slick. Now I'm dealing with a wet ball if it hits the ground. It's just a lot of things that you don't want to have to deal with if you're a player that you didn't anticipate because it was a nice, bright, sunny day in Florida, in Miami. You didn't expect to have a slick field, and so that was something that should never happen. The Dolphins are lucky that the league doesn't fine them for that. That's inexcusable. You can't allow something like that to occur. But that was minor. That was something minuscule on a scale of 1 to 10. That was a 1. It's something that is looming large, and that is a 10 on that scale, however, is the fact that those Seahawks, lost the game. And not only did they lose the game, they potentially could lose 2 of their best players for 4 games. And at a time in a juncture of this season where losing these 2 guys for 4 games could be the difference between you making the playoffs and you being at home late in January, this is a huge development. After the game, much like last year with Fred Davis and Trent Williams, where guys start finding out that, hey, you've been suspended, and it's the latter part of the season, and so, you may get to appeal for a game, but after they find you guilty and they uphold your suspension, you're gone for the final 4 games, just like Trent Williams and Fred Davis were a year ago. So Brandon Browner, the 2 corners, the 2 physical corners for the Seattle Seahawks, and really these are the cornerstones of this defense. You take these corners out of there and you still have 2 good safeties, but you take these 2 corners out of there and this defense becomes really regular all of a sudden. So Brandon Browner and Richard Sherman are being suspended. Right now it's under an appeal by both players, but they're being suspended right now for the use of Adderall. And so they're petitioning this suspension, and they're claiming innocence. They didn't do it. They don't know where this positive test came from. But all I know is that if these 2 are suspended for 4 games, aren't able to beat this rap, and the suspension is upheld, these Seahawks are in a world of trouble. This is the worst time for something like this to occur. I mean, you're talking about a team that last week, with these 2 guys in the lineup, weren't able to beat the Miami Dolphins. Now you take them out of the lineup, and you start playing teams like the Chicago Bears, who they play this week. Now, these suspensions are being appealed by both of these players, so they will get to play against the Bears this week. There's good news and there's bad news. The Seahawks are in the midst of a heated playoff race. I mean, they're right there. They can sniff, they can smell, they can taste, they can touch a playoff spot. They're right there. They may not win their division, probably won't win their division. But that wild card berth, it's right there. They can see it, they can taste it, they can touch it, they can feel it. It's there. It's in reach. Now you take away two of their better players on the defensive side of football, they could be in some trouble. Now, good news and bad news for the Seattle Seahawks. The bad news is this comes at the worst time of the season. If they lose this appeal and are suspended for the final 4 games of the regular season, you could ultimately flop the last 4 weeks of the season, fall out of contention for a playoff berth, and have your season that all your players have worked so hard on all season long go down the drain. That's the bad news. The good news is, however, even if this appeal is denied and they are suspended for the final 4 games, you only play one good team in that stretch. We're talking about Buffalo. We're talking about Arizona. We're talking about St. Louis. We're talking about San Francisco. You got 4 games, 3 of which are against teams with sub 500 records, 3 of which teams that really don't like to score the football, 3 against teams who really can't pass the football. So you might be able to skate with these guys getting suspended because this is the soft part of your schedule. You might be able to get away with these guys being suspended and still win 3 out of these 4 games. If you can do that and still find a way to get to 9 wins, you might be able to get yourself a playoff berth. We'll see. Can't guarantee you anything with 9 wins. You get 10, you're in the NFC. You get 10 and you're in. Can't guarantee you anything with 9. You're on your own if you get 9. You get 10 and you're in. So you got to find a way to get 4 out of your last 5. You messed up because you had the Dolphins on the road, a team that was sub 500, team that is still sub 500, that you should have been able to go to and beat. You let them off the hook, and now you need to find a way to win 4 out of your last 5 to get to 10 wins. If you'd have beat the Dolphins, you would have just needed to find a way to win 3 out of your last 5. That wasn't going to be a tall task because we're talking about Arizona, we're talking about Buffalo, we're talking about St. Louis. And St. Louis and Arizona are both at home, which is a place you haven't lost all year long. So that would have been ideal for you to get to 10 wins. Now you've blown it, and now you're facing suspensions for 2 of your better players on the defensive side of the football. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Seattle Seahawks do moving forward. And that's going to be an episode for In the Lab Room on this Tuesday afternoon. I thank you for joining me. As always, there are many ways to contact me, many ways to view the show. I'm on Facebook. Like the page. Every episode I've ever done is on the Facebook page, so check it out. Like the page. I'm also on Twitter. At In the Lab Room is the Twitter handle. Also, if I forgot to mention, In the Lab Room is the Facebook page. So follow me on Twitter. Every video I've ever done is also posted on Twitter as well. So check that out. In the Lab Room at gmail.com is the inbox. Drop something in there, I'll respond. And even if you want to go the most simplest and easiest route, which is YouTube, Louis T is the page. Subscribe, like the videos. You have a comment on a video, drop it right there at the bottom of the video. I'll see it. It'll come directly to the email in the inbox. I'll respond. Thank you for joining me. As always, thank you for your support. Want to see you back here, same time, same place tomorrow. And finally, it is here. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. You're just going to get it. The division standing segment is ready to go. You'll get it today, so check it out. It'll be on YouTube later on today. Check it out. I thank you for joining me. And as always, have a good one. Want to see you here tomorrow.